Seriously dear, there are no sea turtles. Yeah, I guess it was a random request. I have no idea where that came into my head and... Oh! Hello esteemed viewer who may be watching this. I'm Sonic Electro and this is my showcase of the LEGO Doctor Who TARDIS build from the LEGO Dimensions video game. This is actually an updated version of the same showcase I did, which was one of my first videos, all the way back in 2015.
I like sea turtle. Know what you're thinking? Doesn't look blue. It's not exact, but I hope it is. My one looks bad. Please have Marvel. We're already getting a game in winter. No one cares, Tony. Get out.
I will never talk about it again. Also, a slight tidbit to mention, I've actually got on my TARDIS hoodie for this special occasion.
Hey!
So, LEGO Dimensions. It is, or should I say was, to put simply, a greatly ambitious and expansive LEGO video game and Toys to Life platformer with a multitude of expansion sets released containing characters from many franchises, a vehicle build and or gadget. And the whole story created and a gameplay experience featured perhaps the greatest crossover ever. It's sadly now defunct, but it still leaves behind the many great sets made and hours of gameplay to still enjoy. Many awesome franchises were spotlighted, including Doctor Who, my favourite TV show, which the game helped me rekindle my love for. And the in-game content they made for it? Oh wow. It was fantastic. But I'll tell you what, the one thing that stood out to me, the main catalyst for reigniting my Doctor Who energy, came from the original content trailer, which of course was amazing, and it was the astounding build for the TARDIS. I used reference shots from the trailer, of which there were luckily plenty, and allocated elements from my brick bin and put it together. My original model in 2015 was a look that can only be described as a synonym to beautiful, but it's best forgotten that way. But 6 years later, I've now sourced the correct coloured parts and got some custom stickers, and here we are, a fully faithful recreation of the in-game TARDIS, and I just can't believe I have it in my hands now. But I've rambled on a lot, so let's take a look at the design. So right off the bat, this custom model of the TARDIS is a splendid Legoification that manages to capture all the defining features with a great use of select pieces. It's based on the 11th and 12th Doctor's TARDIS design and has a width and depth of a 5x5 square, so has pretty perfect proportions. Starting at the roof, you see the lantern is actually made using a diagonal 1x1 plate with two trans-light blue studs, and the tapering upper portion of the roof is a 4x4 square placed on various jumper tiles. Interesting how they don't use corner tiles on the flat section. Police signage is produced as a decal on the side of a 2-stud high 5x5 base. It's quite simplified, having public call reduced to 2 lines. Moving down to the main body, you can see the windows have a consistent, accurate design, primarily black with frosted bottom corner windows. At the front, we have decals of the pull to open door and main door opposite with the St. John's ambulance sign. Again, both very simplified. Now what I like here is the suggestion of panels on the sides that the actual TARDIS has, albeit 3 rather than 4 understandably. But the peculiar thing is that the order of the plates and bricks on the doors is different everywhere else. As you can see on the side, it's kind of shifted a bit. At the back, the paneling looks pretty smooth as well. And finally, the base is constructed as a 5x5 square, reminiscent of the roof, with one side having a completely flat surface where the doors would open. Opening up the box, it actually opens up as 2 whole sections rather than just the doors going inward, which is understandable because of how it's made with the hinges, but it's an acceptable compromise. Better than nothing. Inside, there's a simple yet sophisticated brick build of an inner console with a light blue time rotor column. It's a brilliantly whimsical simulation of the inside, and it reminds me a lot of those TARDIS toys that feature a background to create a rather perplexing illusion of a larger interior than exterior. Now, ironically with this TARDIS design, you're not able to fully enclose a minifig inside. The most you're able to do is have them pose so that they look like they're looking out or emerging from the box, and they stand right at the edge because of the central console. You could always try to remove it to be able to further squeeze a figure inside. In my experience, having one-armed raise does help, but it's a constrained 2x2 space, so you can't hold an entire figure inside, unless you break their arms off. So slight setbacks on that front, but besides that, it's all positive praise for this TARDIS Legoification. Now there's no issue when it comes to being able to play with this build. You could pick it up from the lantern and with your thumb and forefinger, you're able to spin it around from the top and just be able to freely spin it around, have some fun and do some pretty cool tricks in your hand to mimic the rough flying patterns of the TARDIS in the show. But slight problem with my build. The clutch between the lantern and the roof is kind of loose, so I've got to replace either piece. But as long as you have a strong clutch, you're all set to go with playing with this build however you'd like, no issue. So about my design and how I put it together. The aforementioned content trailer was the main reference I used originally to remake the in-game design from all angles, inside and out. A couple of caveats to this are that some pieces utilised don't actually exist in a particular colour. That's the same case with the TARDIS pad you find in-game as well. But there are suitable enough solutions to this and alternative bricks that you can use. For instance, the 1x1 bricks with studs on all sides holding the corner struts are actually dark blue in game, but black is more than sufficient. Also, the centre of the roof and base are actually using the old flower piece, something I noticed on the TARDIS pad. It never existed in dark blue, but it's totally inconsequential and you'll never see it, so it's nothing to worry about. But I recommend using a plate over a stud, as it has better clutch and cover. Finally, for non-existent coloured LEGO elements used, the bottom of the column actually uses a non-existent dark blue dish. Luckily, and shout out to my friend Azambi, he thought of a very clever solution of using a trans blue dish in place, which is disguised very well and ensures of a totally accurate Dimensions TARDIS. The corner struts are held in place by the aforementioned 1x1 bricks surrounded by studs near the bottom, but if you leave it there then the corner panels will be quite loose. I can suggest to you two options to have them fixed in place. One, you could go with Odin Makes' option of using 1x1 bricks with Technic holes in them and using the other piece to connect them kind of near the centre. It will result in a holy look, and if you don't really like that, well, I can give you my second option, number 2, of using 1x1 bricks with two studs adjacent to each other and kind of placing them in the same place. Ironically, it's kind of ahead of its time because those bricks were introduced in 2017, so it's a bit ahead of this design time, but it's the most viable option I have, and it's less holy than the other one. Other suggestions for modifying the design also include the inside. It's a colour change I often notice, but you could replace the blue column with black so it looks more like a classic TARDIS interior. And if it were possible, you could change up the colours completely so it looks like a more distinct TARDIS interior. Oh, and another important thing. If you're wondering about the stickers, I got them and you can get them from ucsstickers.co.uk, home to tons of excellent custom stickers for UCS style models and other marvellous creations, as well as various instructions. Along with conveniently offering stickers for the Dimensions design, they also provide a nifty classic looking skin option and a couple of unit logos, and the quality is just as good as LEGO's. The only minor complaint I have about them is the fact the dark blue colour doesn't quite match the brick colour, plus the police box signage doesn't quite cover the entirety of the surface like it does in game, but those are really minor nitpicks that don't ruin the overall look of what is the ultimate minifig scale TARDIS. Little thing to mention, depending on how you receive the stickers cut, you may have the black dividing lines on the individual stickers, so you may need to just trim them off with some scissors. In terms of colour suggestions, well, you could remake the TARDIS in brighter blue. It more than works, and all the blue elements used are actually all available in brighter blue, funnily enough, and it will especially accompany UC Stickers' alternate classic stickers design very nicely. You could also take inspiration from within the game, both the looks they provide and from the colour wheel, and even, again another shout out to Zombie, who created this sensational classic space mock-up skin with the yellow light and grey mixed in there. I love the convincing packaging artwork too. So there's quite a few ideas and inspiration for when you're remaking this TARDIS yourself, and just note that you are able to get all the pieces you need from Bricks and Pieces, apart from the trans blue dish and the 1x2 panel for the back. That's particularly rare, so you're going to need to bricklink it, or just bricklink all the pieces you need. Finally, doing side-by-side comparisons, you can see the Dimensions TARDIS scales perfectly with the LEGO minifigure, unlike the official Ideas build here. As you can see, the little Dimensions brother has more of a properly practical scale, while the bigger Ideas construction has the purpose of connecting to a pretty elaborate TARDIS interior. The notable features of the box are also recreated differently between the two, from the roof and police box signage to the windows, which each support differing graphic looks. The writing is also rather simplified on the Dimensions version, and the Ideas model employs panels on the walls. An interesting component of the Ideas TARDIS is the back panel inside, because it's roughly in scale with the Dimensions build, so I guess you could lend the interior for the smaller little brother design. And one more comparison I like to do is with this old TARDIS keychain I have, which used to make a noise but it's sadly now broken. Yep, it's a funny coincidence because it's literally the same scale, plus extremely well detailed. And it gives you a nice look at all the features the LEGO build is trying to replicate, and yeah, as mentioned before, it does a really admirable job. Molto bene. Here's one last shot of the TARDIS next to the Dimensions DeLorean I remade, along with the complete Doctor Who idea set. All the LEGO time machines in my collection, possibly for some use in the future. So that's it for my rejuvenated showcase and recreation of the LEGO Doctor Who TARDIS from LEGO Dimensions. I know that by now a lot of people have already replicated this particular TARDIS model, perhaps making their own upgrades to revamp it, and have since dedicated themselves to creating more fantastic creations, Doctor Who related or other, and that's okay. All the best to them for their awesome work. This has just been a personal project of mine that's taken a bit of time to complete, and it means a lot as it's based on one of my first videos I ever made, and one of my first popular ones. Plus, I'm totally the first person who did a video on this. Never mind, as it's helped out a lot of people to recreate this, which I'm really grateful for, and I'm just really glad of myself to have a faithful LEGO model of something from my favourite TV show. That's it for this video. If you'd like a tutorial on this TARDIS model, I'll leave a link to it right beside me and in the description below when it comes out. Hope to see you again soon. Have a fantastic charged up day.
I'd like this channel to grow.